My name is Jennifer Gray, and my research paper for this class is on Twitter as a persuasive technology which influences both users on a one-on-one basis and influences the mass media in a larger sense. Twitter is the 8th most popular website in the United States, with over 300 million monthly active users who tweet over 500 million times per day. Twitter got so popular by successfully leveraging persuasive design to convince people to share online in a way that at the time was almost revolutionary. You have to think back to what the internet was like when Twitter launched in July of 2006. MySpace had launched a few years previously, Facebook was still students only, and online sharing as a phenomenon was still nascent. From the beginning, the trick for Twitter was to get users to respond to the prompt, "What are you doing?" And from the first, they employed several of the captology gambits described by BJ Fogg, including offering personalization in terms of a profile pic for each user, also the ability to personalize their feed by selecting their friends. It offered reinforcements by providing a form of leaderboard in the number of followers that a person could accrue, and also various elements of reduction, such as the simple 140 character limit for posts, which lowered the barrier for entry, and allowing for things like automated invitations to other people to join the system, as well as to follow or be followed by you. Over the years, Twitter has honed its persuasive technique by incorporating simplifying elements like @replies and hashtags to make tracking and participating in conversations easier for users, as well as offering web-wide embedding, which allows one-click sharing from almost any website. They've also increased the ability of users to keep track of reinforcements such as retweets, replies, and favoritings, as well as continually simplifying their interface. They've also constantly improved their aesthetic, which they allow users to increasingly personalize with customizable backgrounds, and beginning in 2014, a Facebook-style banner which appears behind the profile pic. Twitter's ability to persuade its users to share their lives online turned it into a wildly successful business, one which posted $436 million in revenue in the first quarter of 2015. This immense popularity helped Twitter transition from a one-on-one persuasion into a system of mass interpersonal persuasion. BJ Fogg describes 6 components of mass interpersonal persuasion. Within the context of Twitter, the persuasive experience is actually the tweet itself, which seeks to gain the attention of other users. It is facilitated by the automated structure of the system, which provides for one-click sharing and web-wide embedding of the service in other websites such as Huffington Post, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Tweets can be shared from friend to friend within followers, or very easily spread from social circle to social circle. And they cycle very rapidly with the instantaneous updates of Twitter and push notifications which go out to users to alert them when multiple of their friends or followers are tweeting about these same topics. Twitter, with its 300 million plus users, offers a huge social graph, and it offers a measurable impact in a couple of different ways. The site provides its own analytics tracker, Twitter Analytics, or if you simply want to use anecdotal evidence, users can watch retweets and favorites and whether or not their hashtags makes the trend to see if they're having an impact. Working within this system of mass interpersonal persuasion are the mainstream media, who increasingly have been persuaded to consider Twitter as an ambient information stream which they can monitor for potential stories. Implicit in this monitoring is the idea of each individual Twitter user as a type of human sensor which fires when it encounters something it considers noteworthy or important. Crooks, Creturo, Stefanidis, and Radzikowski demonstrated the efficacy of gathering information from tweets on the 2011 earthquake in Mineral, Virginia, and posited Twitter's potential value over a system proposed by the United States Geological Survey, arguing that the nearly unlimited potential number of sensors on Twitter would inevitably outmatch the 7,000 monitors the USGS could deploy. This ability to offer on-the-spot reportage of focal news events, which need not necessarily be disastrous in nature, holds clear appeal to an industry with a limited number of reporters, which are undergoing a near constant retrenchment due to changing trends in media consumption. The shift to viewing Twitter as a distributed censor system along the lines of a newswire largely occurred across 2008 and 2009 when the breaking of such stories as the Hudson River crash and the Mumbai terrorist attacks on the microblogging service proved its credibility as a news source. Since that time, the media have increasingly allowed Twitter to persuade them what stories are worthy of coverage, which is something known in the industry as agenda setting. How persuasive is Twitter? Buursma and Graham argue that social media now constitutes its own beat and present findings from a study of the 2010 election campaigns in the UK and Netherlands that Twitter regularly triggered stories in the Daily Mirror, The Sun, The Telegraph, and the Financial Times. Groshek and Groshek, focusing on comparison of New York Times and CNN coverage versus trending topics on Twitter and Facebook during 6 weeks in 2010, found that in the case of cultural coverage, trending topics on Twitter showed an ability to influence coverage appearing on CNN. Sourcing stories from Twitter allows the media to take advantage of existing interest in topics. Once they've launched their own coverage, they can monitor the success of their appropriations via the same system that provided the initial impetus for it, using Twitter's feedback system of favorites, @mentions, and retweets to indicate which stories have longer legs and might attract more readers and contribute to the media outlet's market share or bottom line. This relationship between Twitter and the media can be good or bad. Since its creation, Twitter's designers have been clear that part of their vision was for the service to function as a tool for protest communication, and during both the Egyptian uprising and the Occupy Wall Street movement of 2011, Twitter acted as a source from which the mainstream media could draw a protest narrative. Additionally, Buursma and Graham and Paulson Harder contend that the service helps democratize the media by allowing access to a broader and more diverse range of sources than traditionally would be available for journalists. However, there's also the risk of a persuasive feedback loop, in which the media are persuaded to adopt the agenda of a certain vocal group, then proceed to influence other users within the Twitter sphere to pay attention to that agenda, which in turn further reinforces the media's pursuit of similar coverage, leading to a progressive narrowing of scope and representation. Such a possibility is particularly worrisome given the development of bot technology, which allows the creation of fake accounts which can mimic the behavior of real Twitter users and can be used to manipulate Twitter's trending topics. This is known as astroturfing. Incidents of astroturfing are most frequently noticed in the political arena, such as in the 2009 Massachusetts special election, wherein bots produced over 900 tweets linking to a meme negatively portraying Martha Coakley, which was then picked up and retweeted by real users, resulting in a Twitter bomb that made the meme the top result in Google searches when you searched her name. In such instances of astroturfing, rather than giving voice to a movement, Twitter may instead actually drown it out. For instance, during the 2011 Russian parliamentary elections, 25,000 fraudulent social bot accounts inserted 440,000 tweets into the political conversation to help swamp the opposition. Twitter's expert use of persuasive design over the past decade has allowed it to grow into an aggregate system of influence composed of millions of users, including a mainstream media eager to treat it as a newswire. While this can be a mutually beneficial relationship, it also poses the risk of a persuasive feedback loop in which news stories, drawn from and reinforced by Twitter, may become increasingly narrowly focused and radicalized. The relationship between feedback on Twitter to stories originally pulled from Twitter and its influence on continued coverage should be more closely examined. Additionally, while the research thus far focuses on political implications, the astroturfing of social issues on Twitter to agenda set merits further study, and one area of interest might be the examination of organized Twitter campaigns by anti-vaxxers to sway media coverage and thus public perception by occluding the science on the efficacy of vaccination. During this class, I've learned a lot about the importance of considering user psychology during the design process and of leveraging aesthetics for increasing perceptions of credibility. It's also brought home just how frequently the world I interact with every day is attempting to persuade me to act in a specific way, which has made me far more aware of my decision-making process and the limits beyond which I don't wish to be persuaded. This paper in particular has forced me to consider the ways that even institutions can be persuaded and how that persuasion may affect the rest of us. It's both chilling to think of the potential impact of a radicalizing persuasive feedback loop, and a bit consoling to think that just maybe some of the more awful trends we see on Twitter may just be the product of a small number of people leveraging technology to convince the rest of us to notice them.